Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Crownsman Show. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Joining me is Gowdy Molina. Hello, Gowdy.
Hello.
How's puppy life?
Puppy life is exhausting.
You could have got one that's not going to get to 120 pounds or whatever.
I know. It's going to be bigger than me.
She's a little sweetheart, though. Okay, we're back in the studio. We've got lots of episodes coming up. It'll be hard to top anyone being more exciting than some of what we're going to cover today. We've got Tadano cranes being featured. So the president, Ingo Schiller, he is the president of Tadano America Corporation. Okay. He's going to be on the show today, and it's going to be quite exciting. We're going to be talking about some of the models that they've come out with. Looking back on some of the acquisitions and the history of the company. If you know anything about cranes, you know that that's a pretty rich history with Tadanos. So very exciting. Before we do that, Gowdy, please give a shout out to our sponsors.
Absolutely. Okay, we will start with General Equipment and Supplies. General Equipment and Supplies is a premier dealer of aggregate and equipment with locations in North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa, and with customers throughout the U.S., Canada, and beyond. They offer sales, rentals, and parts, and service all makes and models of equipment. Their team takes pride in asking the right questions and providing creative solutions because no aggregate spread or project is the same. General Equipment and Supplies is flexible and easy to do business with and committed to your long-term success. You can visit them at genequip.com to find out more. Next up, we have Savinaw Equipment. Savinaw Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to open pit. If you need a trommel, ball mill, and even laboratory or electrical equipment, you can visit them at savinawequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. Next up, we also have KG Industries. KG Industries specializes in manufacturing specialty heavy-duty axles. If you need self-steer, forced-steer, or off-highway axles, they work with companies on engineering axles for their specific needs. KGI's axles are built to outlast the service of life of the equipment they are used on, with designs that make the axles easy to service. Whether you are moving mining equipment, cranes, or even rockets, KGI will help you perfect the design. You can visit them at kgi.ca to find out more. And last but not least, we have Power Zone Equipment. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas, pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems no matter the challenge. Get in the zone with Power Zone. Visit them at powerzone.com.
Oh, we covered all the sectors today.
We did, yes.
Fun. Okay. Hello, Ingo. Well, Ingo, welcome to the show. Great to have you on. Pretty excited to be featuring a company like Tadano and have you representing them. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the invitation.
Just a quick question. Have you had a chance to do the podcast web series circuit yet?
No, this is new territory for me. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's, what we found is it is a chance to sort of unpack different topics where, it used to be a 2 or 3 minute video, especially a company with the history that Tadano has, and new products and, all the things that they're doing across the industry. It's exciting to actually be able to unpack it. So I'm looking forward to it. Can we just have what is your role within the company?
Well, I joined Tadano 5 years ago as president of Tadano America Corporation. My responsibilities started out with U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and have grown to all of the Pan America region. Okay. So right now, the group out of headquartered in Houston, Texas, is responsible for the entire Pan America region for all the lifting equipment that Tadano builds.
Okay, what's in your day, is it just to dig into the structure a little bit? I think it's important. When I was prepping for this interview, obviously we're going to talk about, the products you have, but just someone in your position, at the head of such a large team and such a big region, even, are you sort of dealing with like 10 direct people that are running it, or sort of what's your day-to-day like running a company like Tadano?
Well, running the Tadano America operation is a really good time. I have a fantastic team. I have 6 direct reports, and we get a lot of stuff done. We cover a lot of territory, a lot of different product lines, but we run a really, really simple business. All we have to do is deliver good product to our customers and take care of our customers. It keeps life really simple. And when you try and make it more complicated than that, you can get yourself confused. We try to just keep things very simple and straightforward.
Is that something you learned, or is that naturally just something you understood as you move forward in your career?
Well, I am second generation in the crane business. I grew up around cranes in the crane industry. I've had the pleasure of working for a couple of different manufacturers, as well as a family-owned business that was responsible for sales and maintenance of all sorts of cranes, from ship offshore cranes to mobile and crawler cranes as well. So I've experienced the industry from many different sides, certainly not all the sides. I haven't seen it all. I haven't done it all. But I've worked with a lot of people over the last 30 years, and we figured out what our customers need. And one of the nice things about this industry, we've got very vocal customers. If you're a little confused, they'll tell you what they need. And if you give it to them, everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy, yeah. Is it an industry, I mean, it's at its core, it's still lifting the things that nothing else can lift, and in specific situations. Is it, being that you've been in the industry so long and the second generation, are there a couple of changes that stand out from you from the 30 years ago? What is it, the technology? Is it the systems? What do you sort of see?
I think that the biggest change over the last 30 years has been the very important and very real focus on safety. 30 years ago, there was more an attitude of go out and get the job done. And now the approach is, what do we need to ensure that the job is being done safely? So there's a lot more preparation. There's a lot more technology involved in order to ensure that everyone goes home with all fingers and toes attached.
Yeah. Do you think, is it to a place where it needs to be now? Do you think on the safety side, have we sort of reached that goal that was happening, or will we see even more changes, like with technology monitoring and sensors and that? Are we at the forefront of it, or is it just set to keep expanding?
Well, I'm simply a crane guy. So not, I make no claims to be a futurist. I think that the industry has worked very hard to make sure that the tools are in place for people to do the work safely. Full stop. Now, there are still accidents, so there's still room for improvement. And we have to make sure that everyone in the industry and that is coming into the industry is educated so that they can make good use of those tools and go home in one piece.
Mm-hmm. Let's jump over to the history of Tadano, because that's a whole other topic. We could probably do 5 shows just covering all the history of it. But can you just, I mean, of course, a lot of people are familiar with it, but can you give us a little bit of a window into the history of the company that we're actually featuring?
Sure. Tadano Limited was founded over 100 years ago in Japan by the Tadano family. And there have been 3 generations of Tadano running the family. In April of this year, Mr. Ujiya took over as CEO and is the first non-family CEO in the company's history. Wow. They started out doing hydraulic steel construction and hydraulic items, moved quickly into cranes, and have stayed in cranes and aerial work platforms ever since. Manufacturing in a couple of locations in Japan. In the 90s, they purchased the Fawn factory and began producing all-terrain cranes in Germany. They opened a loader crane factory in Thailand. And then in 2019, Tadano purchased the DMAG brand and added 2 more manufacturing facilities in Germany. So, sorry, I have needed to double back. In 2008, they purchased the Mantis product line that is produced here in the United States. And so with production in Japan, Thailand, the US, and Germany, truly a global manufacturer of lift equipment.
Is there an approach to business that has made them so successful, and the ability to expand, their global outreach, these acquisitions? Is there a through line that you see, even just from your own perspective, that gives the company so much strength and longevity?
They are not in a rush.
Mm.
They are patient. Mr. Tadano is an incredibly thoughtful individual and wants to make sure that whatever is done to honor the history of the company and make sure that the quality, reliability of the equipment will satisfy the customers and certainly not bring any shame to the Tadano name. So our concentration on making sure that we do things right. And one of the nice things about being Tadano is a publicly traded company in Japan, but publicly traded companies in Japan are operated very similar to privately held companies. Mm. We are not operating on a quarter-to-quarter basis. We look at our shortest timeline is a 3-year timeline, but really we're looking at the next 10 and 20 years to make sure that what we do now will serve us well in the long run.
Mm. I probably have heard that, but I didn't. Is that all public companies are like that, or is that a Japanese culture thing, or how does that work?
I can't speak to all companies, but I have worked for a few Japanese companies, and that has been my experience, that they are all taking a longer term approach. They want to do right by their shareholders, but they know that the best way to do that is to satisfy their shareholders over the long term.
But Tadano is doing an interesting thing with these acquisitions as well, because when they're doing the acquisition, they are, an American company or a German company. They are taking all that innovation and that way of doing business, and they are sort of merging it with theirs and taking advantage of that. Is that a fair assessment?
It is. It is definitely a blending of cultures and technologies. When Tadano buys product lines, for example, we recently purchased the DMAG brand. That gave us access to some large all-terrain designs and concepts, and also large crawler cranes, which is something that Tadano had not had in the past. Mm. And so we need to learn from the DMAG team, and we also are in the process of sharing some of our experience with hydraulic components, control systems, and the things that make the other Tadano products successful. And there is really a very good collaboration and cross-pollination where we are in a position to take the best and leave the rest. And there is no pride in authorship, so that if we find that a company, whether it was the Mantis company or the DMAG company or the Fawn company, that they did something or had technology was better than something that Tadano had, we adopt it. And if there are work processes, design processes, manufacturing processes that improve quality that the Tadano group out of Japan can share, they do so. And so it is really, once people realize that that's what's going to happen, we are going to have conversations, we're going to share information, and the goal is to end up better than we were before.
Mm. I've read some articles about this one Tadano strategy. I think this would probably be a good time to highlight that, because that sort of fills into what you're saying as well.
Yes, it is truly, the goal is to be one Tadano, that it isn't this brand or this factory or that factory. It's one Tadano with one single purpose, satisfying our customers and growing our business through satisfied customers. Again, we want to grow. We want to be the premium choice of lifting equipment, and we will do what it takes to get there, but we're not in a rush to get there tomorrow.
Mm. So is this unification? Is this a tomorrow thing, or will there be time? Will there be quite a bit of time before this becomes, or is this sort of already in place?
Well, this is already in place, but it is there's always a matter of communication and cross-pollination.
Yeah.
Because you will have, even if it's 10 years after an acquisition, there will be an advancement in an R&D group in one part of the Tadano company.
Right.
And that information is shared to make sure that the entire company benefits from the knowledge that is developed anywhere in the company.
When you're talking about this, and I look at just the magnitude of these cranes and the size of your organization, and with the acquisitions, the sharing of technology, I don't. We're a small company. I don't work for a large corporation, and it always amazes me that ability. Now, if you're not in a rush, that's a huge advantage, of course, because then you have the time. But how do you organize that from the leadership? From the leadership perspective, how do you organize the sharing of information and making sure things like egos aren't getting in the way if one crane's technology needs to be transferred over onto the next, and even assessing that it's a good investment, knowing that it's going to work for a customer, that, a customer's they bought this line of crane for the last 10 years, and now you're putting in a new system that's from a different brand, that sort of stuff. How do you sort of approach all of that?
Well, the nice thing is that reasonable people, equally informed, almost always agree. And so we make sure that people have the information that they need. There's a lot of time, there's a lot of dialogue. COVID has been a terrible thing for the world, but it has also forced companies to change. One of the things that it has allowed us to do is improve our virtual technology, our virtual workplace. And we now have more face-to-face conversations amongst the team around the world, getting on the digital calls, whether it's Zoom calls or virtual office that we use. And it has actually accelerated the dialogue and improved the level of communication. If you're not traveling, flying over to Europe or flying to Asia for a conversation, it's a lot easier to have that 15 or 20-minute conversation with somebody and just share what's going on. So again, terrible situation for the globe. We have learned a lot from it, and we just encourage that people at all different levels of the organization talk, communicate, share with each other with what's going on. We also have people that are responsible for different areas of technology that pay attention to what's happening in different parts of the world. And we refer to these as the connection people, to make sure that Germany knows what's happening in the US or Japan, and that nothing happens in a vacuum.
It's quite exciting. And I want to move on to some of the models, but I got to ask you one sort of more professional question. One more. I'll probably slip in a few more, but one more for now is, I'm always fascinated by day one. For someone like yourself to come into a company, and just what's that thought when you've got this company with such a rich history. They're based out of Japan, so there is a difference in culture, but you're coming in and you're going to head up this whole division, this huge division of their company. What's day one like? Once the initial meetings are done, everything's signed, you're starting, and you walk into the office, and you've got that first 10 minutes. What's going through your mind?
Well, I was incredibly fortunate that my predecessor stayed on for another 6 months. And so I had, of all the changes in my career, the change into Tadano was gentle, so that I had the luxury of learning the business, service, parts, warehouse, the operation, the way things were done. And one of the things that the team heard so often from me was, I've got a question. And they would say, all right, what's going on? I said, I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just saying this is not obvious. Can you explain this to me? Because people are smart. They do things for good reason. It's not always obvious what those reasons are. Yeah. One of the important things that we have as a company realized is you cannot optimize without compromise. So if something is done a certain way, it's probably, there are very good reasons for that. And it's important to know that if you want to achieve this, maybe you have to compromise over here and here, but it's important to know the backstory. So I was lucky that I was able to spend time with all parts of the company to learn that backstory, figure out what still made sense. A few things were probably dated, and to begin a transition period and a growth period that really hasn't stopped in the last 5 years. And so I was, again, very lucky in this transaction.
That's, I think if nothing else, there's going to be some business leaders that are watching this show that are going to go, yeah, I think we should just make it a company policy that there's, if at all possible, a 6-month transition window between roles. It's absolutely huge when companies take that sort of initiative for their leadership team.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some of the, Rory was the one who booked Tadano, Rory Bamford. He absolutely loves cranes. So he's really biased when he's booking cranes. He's just going for it. So let's talk about some of the products lines. I know one of the ones that was in my notes was the GTC 1600, but then there's a couple other ones I want to talk about. Can you highlight some of these product lines?
Well, so Tadano builds several different flavors of cranes. Historically, we've started with the rough terrain cranes that have in operation all around the world. The GTC line that you're talking about, they're built predominantly in the United States. That's the telescopic boom crawler cranes. In addition to that, we have the all-terrain cranes. We have truck cranes in emerging markets, and then we have the lash boom crawler cranes. So those are the ones that we deal with in the Pan America region. In addition to that, the Tadano also builds the loader cranes, which are the small material handling cranes on small trucks that you see running around in Japan and Asia. But they're not a product that we bring into the American markets. So those are the different product lines we have. As far as capacity in the GTC line, we start at 35 ton and go up through 200 metric ton. So a lot of options there. The largest of those lines is actually a product that we got during the DMAG acquisition and is built in Germany. The rest of the teleboom crawlers are built in Virginia in the United States. So what other products or what other machines are on your notes?
Okay, so the other one I wanted to highlight was the GR-1000XL-4. Now, if you've watched this show, I don't imagine with your with your schedule you have a couple hundred hours to catch up, but you know that I don't pretend to be an expert on the show. I look for the talking points I think will be interesting to the audience, and I throw them out there for the guest. So, can you tell us a little bit about that unit?
Okay, this is a unit that we're very excited about. The first unit has arrived this week in North America. This was a crane model that was truly a response to our customers and our customers' needs. We had a very popular 100-ton machine, a 120-ton machine, and a 160-ton rough terrain machine. And our customers came to us and said, with the activity that's happening in the wind market, we really would like to have a 2-axle machine, a little bit more capacity, can still be transported on 3 trucks, et cetera, et cetera. Our engineering group got busy and put together a 130-ton capacity, long boom, 2-axle, rough terrain crane that has basically the same dimensional envelope as our 100-ton machine, which has been incredibly popular. So we have designed a crane to meet our customers' needs. The first one has been delivered, and as soon as we announced this machine, the first 2 years of production immediately sold. So really? we went in a matter of 2 days to a 2-year backlog on that machine. So we're excited to have that hit the market.
I want to back up to something that you mentioned, that customers actually came to you. And it's something that's always fascinated me about companies like Tadano and other major manufacturers is that how much of it is your research team putting together what is possible, or does it really come from you get these customers from all over the world saying, hey, these are the things that are being built now. This is the engineering that's happening out in the market. We need these units. Is that how it comes to fruition?
It is absolutely a partnership. It is customers saying, our work has changed. This is what we have to do. This is where we're struggling to meet our end customers' demand with the product. What can you do to help us? And so that's 50% of the conversation. And 50% of the conversations are our R&D team going to customers and saying, we have been investigating this. Would this be helpful? And so between those two conversations, a lot of innovation happens. And what we really enjoy about our customer base, our customers know how our cranes work, what works, what is difficult, what should be improved, etc. So they are one of our best resources on designing the next generation of cranes. So when they speak, we listen.
Is that so? When you're, not to dig into too much of the nuts and bolts, but to get backlogged that quickly, do you know that that's coming? Do you still get surprised by the market's response, or is the research strong enough that when you come in, there's a pretty good sense of what you're going to run into, or do you still run into a scale up issue where you go, oh wow, we've got to ramp up our manufacturing of this unit?
Well, with this machine, we knew we were filling a growing need in the market. Mm-hmm. This crane was not needed 5 years ago. It is needed now. And so we paid attention to our customers early enough to design this so that it is available as this big upswing in demand for the wind industry is taking place. Mm-hmm. So good timing. And not every new model is something that filled such a clearly identified need. This one did. The fact that it was picked up by our customers so quickly was a pleasant, how do I put it, a big pleasure, but not entirely surprising because we knew what we were developing. We had several good partners that worked with us on this, mm-hmm. and it was a pretty big need to fill.
Right. And is it a very specific? You mentioned these windmill farms and things like that. Is that what 90% of it's going to be used for, or is it just filling that gap, and then there's a whole plethora of other things?
There's a plethora of other things. The nice thing about the rough terrain cranes, they work on construction sites, they work in refineries, petrochemical, they work in the wind industry. They truly work in all facets of the lifting industry arena. It is just that the specifications for this machine were strongly influenced by the larger demands, heavier lifts, longer reaches of the wind industry. But we know that the first couple of machines have already been booked to work in refineries. So they're useful to have anywhere you need them.
This is just my own curiosity. When you release a crane like this into the market and then someone goes, oh, this is perfect. I'm just picturing an engineer going, oh, well, that went well. So if we had an extra this and that, we could now design this. That must happen. You must inspire the next generation of innovation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But one of the things that Tadano does that serves our customers very well is we don't change models quickly or often. We are very thoughtful in what we do. And so we design a machine and we hold on to that model as long as it serves our customers and the industry. We don't like changing models quickly because, again, people invest in our equipment. They invest and own several of these models in fleets. And when you make a new model, it affects fleet value, utilization, et cetera. So we are respectful and want to honor the people that have invested in our equipment and make sure that they have a good long time to reap the benefits of owning it before there are changes.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer. I was being a little bit cheeky because I'm just picturing these engineers going, "Hey, look at what I could do now."
Well, the nice thing is you get to work with engineers, and they all keep their notebook of going, okay,
Yeah.
the next one, let's write down this idea and let's hold on to it and let's see what's going to develop. Because the nice thing is technology changes and the work changes. And we try to design cranes around the work that exists and is expected. It's not just a matter of making a crane with a 3 meter longer boom and 10% more capacity.
Right.
It's what's the need? How do you get the crane to the job site and back? And how many people does it take to assemble it and rig it? And what can you make it easier to get on and off the truck if you transport it by truck? And how many truckloads if it's an all-terrain crane? These are all factors. To run a successful crane rental business, it is as much logistics as it is lifting.
Yep.
And so we have to consider all these aspects.
Yeah. We've done, well, one of your sponsors, one of the sponsors on this show, I mean, they build the axles to be transporting these huge units around. They've done stuff for, space transport and all kinds of stuff. And it's a whole, we've done whole entire shows about it, about the logistics of, we did another episode about how each state has different laws for transporting. So you need to get the permitting state by state. It's just absolutely fascinating. Fascinating to me. I don't know about the audience, but you touched on technology. So that's a nice pivot. We kind of went back to, going back to, your experience in the industry and how things have changed. Obviously sensor technology, again, we've done multiple episodes on all different sectors highlighting the sensor technology. I want to give you three and just let you touch on it. The Smart Counterweight, the IC1 remote, and the Tadano View system and DMAG surround view. And the Opti width on GTCs. So you've got all this technology. Maybe I'll let you pick out a couple that you want to highlight.
Okay, so let's talk about the IC1 remote. IC1 is the control system that was developed by the DMAG brand, and that is the control system that we're moving forward with on our all-terrain and crawler cranes. The remote part of that is the addition of the telemetrics system, which allows people to monitor the performance and characteristics of the cranes remotely. A lot of our customers and the industry in general have moved to doing fleet management and fleet maintenance through the data that they get from the telemetric systems.
Right.
So that they can truly monitor, it's not just as simple as number of engine hours and you base your maintenance on those intervals, but truly how many hours you are using the winch, and so that you can be smarter about your maintenance, manage your cost, manage your performance, ensure that you are maintaining the equipment properly, and also have the data to see how the equipment is being used in the field to make sure that it's being used safely, and that you are able to invoice the correct amount in a timely manner. So this remote access to the data on the machines and doing fleet management is an important part of ensuring the profitability of our cranes for our customers.
Right. Again, forgive the layman question, but is that type of technology, can that be outfitted into a crane that's 15 years old, or is this coming with the new? How does that sort of integrate into the fleets that are already existing?
Okay, so I'm a little bit of a telemetrics geek, so I'm going to try not to go too much into the weeds. As far as the IC1 remote, that is something that is limited to cranes with IC1. For other cranes, older machines in the fleet, there are a lot of third parties that provide telemetric equipment that you can retrofit to it. You won't have all the details, but you'll have a lot more than you would have if you just had a 10-year-old machine, so that you can monitor location, engine hours, see what's happening with the equipment. So what we are seeing is that a lot of customers have mixed fleets, so cranes of different brands, and they want to bring all this data into one platform. And so we make sure that we can export our data to a third-party monitoring platform because people want to manage their trucks and their cranes and their man lifts and all the other rental equipment that they have. And so we just want to make sure that we do our part to make it easy for them to run a good fleet.
So I just want to quickly just jump over to the sort of the U.S. and Canadian market. We're obviously based in Canada here. We've got a large audience in the U.S. So maybe just talk just on a high level, and then we'll drill into a couple of the specific industries. Just sort of the approach to those two markets.
Okay. Well, Canada has been a very important market for us. We have an office and shop in Edmonton, as well as a parts warehouse, and we have expanded the parts warehouse and the service facility there in the last few years. A lot of the original growth and the focus was for supporting the Fort McMurray and all that tar sands activity. And since then, we've just continued to grow it. And one of the things that we're pleased with, and what we try to do in all of our markets, is make sure that we have parts and service support in each market so that customers can obtain that in the local market, local currency. So you don't have to wait for parts coming out of the US, Japan, or Germany. We've got them in stock in Edmonton.
Is the one thing I was wondering too is with these this sort of a business development side on the business development side of things, when you have like an energy sector, the oil and gas sector specifically, that's running into challenges. But then you have mining that is doing quite well, especially in Canada. How do you approach that as a company? Are you following the market? Are your sales teams and how you're talking to dealers, are you continuously updating that, or does the phone sort of ring as needed?
The answer to that is yes. So one of the nice things about being in the crane industry is we are energy and industrial agnostic. The nice thing is when people need to lift stuff, they need cranes. It doesn't matter really what the source of energy is. You generally need cranes to support it. And whether it's construction industry or mining, you need crane support. So the nice thing about our product line, it is very broad. While you may need large crawlers for the wind industry, you may use more all-terrains and rough terrains in the mining industry. We're there to take care of it. We have a lot of conversations with our customers. We talk to our dealers and several of our end customers on a weekly, if not daily basis. They talk to us about their fleet utilization, and we monitor what they need and what's getting busy and make sure that we have the right equipment either in stock or in production to be ready for them a few months ahead. Now, it's like anything else. You don't always get it right, but you want to make sure that you're having all the right conversations to improve the chance of having what your customers need.
Is that, so from the dealer's point of view, then they really have to be on that feedback because they're needing to essentially navigate their fleet into the market because they're the ones that are dealing directly. Is that right?
Most often we sell predominantly through dealers, and my personal history started out as in a family dealership. So I know the challenges that dealers have, and good dealers are just great to have. And a good dealer can make your life as a manufacturer very easy. We pay close attention to what they say, and we listen very carefully when they describe their pain points. So we want to make sure that their dealers have what they need on the ground close to the customers. And we want to make sure that we have in our pipeline what the dealers need to make sure that there are no gaps. We also really appreciate the fact that our dealers work well together, and they will move inventory amongst them in order to take care of a customer.
Going back to, we sort of touched on it very briefly at the beginning of the interview about the unification of the Tadano brand. Is that Does that have a challenge across any of the industries where, let's say, the mining industry, they use a specific brand, and now it's shifting over to a one brand? How do you sort of approach that can you approach it by industry and by country, or when it comes down to it, are your customers, are they looking at the specifications? What can this crane do and what can it deliver?
Well, our idea of a perfect customer is a ruthlessly objective customer. We want people to buy the equipment that's right for them. Now, if it happens to be Tadano brand, that is great. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that people buy what's right for them, because we want them to be successful, profitable, and stay in business. And the really beautiful thing is, if they're objective, then it makes our life very easy. We just build the right equipment and the best equipment, and they'll buy from us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we like it when our customers, make decisions and say, this is the criteria upon which we're making our buying decision. This is what we're looking for. Please give us more of this. Please correct that. That feedback is invaluable. And it's what we have grown our business on, by listening and adapting to make sure that we meet their needs. Now, as far as big unification, we did have a challenge when we bought DMAG, because DMAG had established dealers, Tadano had established dealers. Now, fortunately for us, many of those dealers overlapped. And so there were very few people that we had to have difficult conversations with about territories and product lines, because there was so much overlap between the DMAG large all-terrain cranes and crawler cranes and the Tadano brand of rough terrain cranes and small and medium all-terrains. So it worked out really well for us, especially in the Americas.
Mm. Sorry, go ahead. My apologies.
No, but moving forward, we're moving forward with the Tadano brand. And so you'll see all of the Tadano products coming out, no matter if they were originally from the Mantis acquisition or the DMAG acquisition. You'll see them moving forward under the Tadano brand.
Another question that I wanted to sort of, as we're wrapping up, that came to my mind was, in this day, you going back again when you talked about the sort of the communication now that can happen, across country and across sectors. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and communication between teams. We had some technical difficulties coming on before we started this episode, and as I was sort of getting a little bit flustered, and Gowdy was trying to fix everything, and I realized a year ago you would have been rescheduling this in a trip. There would have been flying out, or there would have been coordinating it with another event you were going to. So the 15-minute delay is nothing in comparison to the disruption it would have been to be on the show a year ago. And I'm just wondering, with the amount of information that's out there now, is it, when you're a company that's leading in an industry, nice plug for you there, but you really are, when you're in that position, does it make it so much easier to process transactions, in the sense that people make their decisions faster because there is such they have so much access to information in a way that they just didn't have that even 10 years ago?
It is really a joy, because our customers are better informed than ever before. They know the product, they know the specifications, they know the application. They have friends in the industry. They do their research. They know the total cost of ownership. And it is really a pleasure to sit down with a customer and have them explain what they want from you, and why. And then it's even a lot more fun to sit with them after they've made their buying decision and have them explain in detail the process that they went through. It is truly an education. We deal with much better informed people that do their homework than even 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's sort of a new age. I have to say, Ingo, it was, genuinely, it was exciting to have you on the show and be able to walk through. It was so tempting to ask even more leadership questions, because it's not every day that I get to talk to someone that's sort of in this position dealing with this, you have this amazing company behind you, but then you're also dealing with such a large portion of their business, and then walking us through what's going on in the company. It was pretty fun for me. I hope you enjoyed it, and at some point maybe come back on the show. It was great to have you.
It was an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed the conversation. And, I'm only here because I work with a really, really good team, and they make it possible for me to take some time during the workday and have these type of conversations.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time. Thank you, Ingo.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Gowdy, for helping us get the little glitches. It just part of the business. It does happen. So thank you for.
It does.
While I was getting worried, you were just calmly just sorting it out. So thank you very much. Where can everybody like, follow, share, subscribe, comment, make fun of me, whatever they want to do?
Provide, comments about how we can be better.
Yeah, that's a better way of saying it.
Well, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got 2, maybe 3 episodes a week now on there. If you'd like to be part of the show, whether it's the Crownsman Show, Mining Now, Crownsman Energy, or our new Crownsman Ag show, please contact us, info@crownsman.com. Yeah.
And there will be some announcements coming out about hosts and some new productions, and we've got a lot going on. So we will keep you updated on that as well. Thank you for watching, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of The Crownsman Show.